Hello and welcome to Fidelity Next, our student webcast that helps take students to the next level in their careers. I'm your host, Emily Anuevo. If your career interests lie in helping others, creating employee programs, and improving workplace culture, then this webcast is for you. Today I'm sitting down with two members of Fidelity's Learning and Development team in our Human Resources Department. Ravina Gill and Monica Gagliardi are here to share their career journeys, what they do as learning and development specialists, and tips on how to get started in the L&D field. Ravina, Monica, thanks so much for joining me today in studio. So lovely to see you.
Thanks so much, Emily.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Of course, of course. I think it's always a treat to actually take time and sit down with my colleagues and hear about their stories, hear about how they first got started in this field and in their careers. I think it's a real pleasure to actually be sitting with you two and hopefully, provide a lot of insights and tips to our audience. So before we get into what L&D is all about, let's start from the beginning. Let's start, I think everybody here at Fidelity has like such a unique and interesting background and story. So how did you sort of find your way to Fidelity in the financial services industry? Monica, if I can start with you.
Yeah.
I know you sort of have a unique start. It did start in economics though, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I took like the most untraditional way. I studied economics in university, and then when I first got my first job, I kind of realized that what I really enjoyed was when a new hire would come on board, teaching them the new software, procedures, workflows, interacting with them. So then I kept realizing that that's what I really enjoyed about my job. So once I realized that that's where I wanted to go, I went back to school and did adult education, and then the rest is history. I kind of maneuvered myself into that field for sure, and never looked back.
And you've been at Fidelity for 6 years?
No, 5 years this April.
There. Yeah, awesome, amazing.
Yeah. My start date is April 1st, so it's really easy for me to remember.
Yeah, at the beginning of April, the beginning of the month.
Yeah.
Okay, so neat. So you started in economics as your educational background, and like you said, went back to school for adult education.
Yeah.
So, and that sort of ties in, Ravina, to similar to what your background is. I know you started in teaching. So tell us about that and how you eventually found your way to Fidelity.
Yeah, so essentially I actually did a master's of teaching and I focused in the primary sector. So I was a grade 1-2 teacher before working at Fidelity, which was very exciting and I loved it, but I had always planned on getting into adult education. I did a lot of work in restorative justice education, and it was all focused on training adults and making sure that we're creating like inclusive communities of learning. So I actually kind of stumbled into Fidelity through that, just kind of wanting to pursue that focus sooner than later. So yeah, I've been at Fidelity a year in March, so very exciting, but yeah, it's been great.
That's amazing. I'm going to stick with you, Ravina, because you mentioned that you did your master's in education. It was supposed to be, grade 1, grade 2, and then you switched to adult education. So tell me how those experiences and that educational background actually helps you in your role as an L&D consultant.
Yeah, so at first the transition was super weird.
Not gonna lie, right?
Like talking to children.
Right?
It was definitely different.
Yeah.
It was like talking to children versus talking to adults. Like there was like a point in time when Monica asked me where something was, and I was like, "It's right there, sweetie." And it was like so kindergarten teacher. But then once I realized that it's not so different fundamentally when you're learning something new. Like as an adult or as a child, when you're learning something new, it can feel so like ostracizing and awkward and like a little worrisome. And so when you just realize that it's like everyone just wants to be treated with respect and they want to learn things in a way that's like catered to them and their learning styles and like how they prefer to engage. That was kind of like where I was able to take off and say, okay, so at the end of the day, we're all like kids at heart, but at the same time, like learning works in the similar ways as long as you kind of find that motivation.
Would you agree, Monica? I know your background was in adult education too, so do you see similarities there?
Well, I didn't mind her calling me sweetie. First of all, it was really nice. I'm like, okay. I knew, definitely knew. Yeah, no, I think it just comes down to a learning culture that we have here at Fidelity and how it's inclusive. And so I think, having those great transferable skills where you really understand the learner and you have that foundational knowledge about structural design and applying it to different audiences, that's really what's needed for a field like this. You really need to be curious as well. You need to want to work with people, and I think that's really important here.
Okay, and I'm going to stick with you, Monica, on that point, because my next question is, what is learning and development exactly? I know it's underneath the human resources umbrella, but if you can
Yeah.
explain to the audience
Of
what it
course.
entails.
Yeah, learning development is kind of like a strategic function of human resources. It really is about engaging our employees and also developing them and professionally.
Okay.
So it has a lot of different, it encompasses in HR because it's a very strategic function of them. It really takes care of our employees. We think about, you know, what's out there, what's prominent, you know, it encompasses about learning new tools, but also upskilling, right? When an employee comes here and wants to move to different areas in our business, we empower them to do that by giving them learning opportunities or learning resources. So yeah, it definitely fits in human resources. I can't even think of another place because it
Yeah.
also fuels human resources and, you know, the retention as well. So it really encompasses a lot about the employees' development.
Because when I think of human resources, I think about recruitment,
Yeah,
retention,
exactly.
like you said, but just face-to-face people training. And that's when I learned about, you know, L&D. It's a lot about taking your career to the next level, whether you're in the digital department like I am, or, you know, in client services. I mean, do you guys get to interact with each of all the departments in Fidelity?
Yeah, that's actually most of our job.
Okay.
Is like we interact with the department, find out what training that they want and what they're looking for from us, and we work in tandem with them so that we can kind of create training that's like effective for their new hires and for their current employees as well. So it's great. It's like we look at our employees like they're our clients, whereas, you know, other departments definitely see like their clients as their clients, but so it's kind of fun that way. It's all like internal focused.
Yeah, really interesting. Yeah. Is there something about the L&D field that people may not know about that, you know, you want to share, that the misconceptions or whatnot? Would you say, Monica?
That's a really good question. There's a lot of thought to put into our training, and sometimes people think that training, you know, solves a lot of issues, but it really is very consultative. You have to really understand the needs of the learners, the needs of the business, and also we are very interested in like finding the best way of doing this. We actually go, you know, we're encouraged to go to a lot of our conferences here at Fidelity to understand what, you know, the outside world are doing. Especially, I can imagine like when it went all hybrid, all virtual, and then we came back to hybrid. This was totally new for everyone. You know, the pandemic really shifted our thinking. So we're constantly learning and unlearning skills.
Yeah.
So I think that's it's a very fast-paced environment because you want to do right by your employees. So I think that's a misconception of, you know, everything is training. If you don't know something, it's not training. There's more to it. You have to ask really in-depth questions. You have to really understand the business. You have to understand where the clients are, where the employees are coming from. So there's a lot of mixed bags for everything.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting point you mentioned, obviously, how everything changed when the pandemic hit, you know, now 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So you've seen, Monica, the changes in the workplace culture, the employees. Now we're all, you know, sort of hybrid. Some positions you're full-time here in the office. So can you comment on just some of the major changes that you've seen over the 5 years?
Yeah, it really unraveled us, and it kind of made us think of everything brand new. And
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
I know
Makes
it's
sense.
sometimes hard and it's challenging, but it was also really rewarding because we got a chance of proving things that, you know, we went virtual really fast because our employees were at it. So we have to meet their needs. So now it gave us kind of like a level set of like, okay, let's revisit everything and see what is the best now that everything has changed.
Yeah.
So it kind of, I mean, it was hard work,
Yeah.
but it was really empowering to say, hey, everything, the book is out the window.
Yeah.
Think about everything all over again and meet your learners where they're at.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to be back in the office
Yeah.
on a hybrid format and sort of this new normal.
Yeah.
It's nice to be face to face with everybody.
Exactly.
So for people watching out there right now, if you could explain sort of the fundamental skills and experience you would need if you want to start out in the L&D industry, what would you say, Ravina?
I'd say that you just have to be someone that really likes learning is like the number one thing. I think with our role, it's like it's never going to stop. So it's like if new technology comes out or, you know, if we have new policies in place, like you're always going to be learning how to be able to implement those within Fidelity or within any work environment. So that's the number one thing. It's like if you kind of want a job where you're there and it's consistent and it's going to be the same all the time, and that's not L&D for sure, and it's really fast paced. So that is another thing, is that just time management skills or organizational skills, just to keep yourself accountable and know what your tasks are always going to be super helpful.
Yeah, I mean, if I could add on to that, people skills. Fidelity has a culture of working in a collaborative environment, so you're always working with clients. You're going in there asking questions. You're asking to really uncover the training need. There are other technical skills as well in our field, as facilitators, strong facilitation skills, as well as instructional design for creating and designing training that fits our learners. But overall, I think you also have to be really curious. Like, go in there not thinking you know the answers, just try to understand, speak with people. Relationship building is really important as well. But yeah, that pretty much covers it.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Having the soft skills, being curious, like you said, Ravina. You want to learn. I mean, that's exactly what it entails, right? So always trying to improve yourself and improve your position. So I love that. And I know both of you are really passionate about financial literacy. I know you also work with our co-ops and our younger students here at Fidelity. Can you explain a bit about why it's so important for both of you to send out that message about financial investment literacy, Monica?
Well, I think we think that financial literacy, although we don't think it's done well enough in our current curriculums in high schools. And Fidelity is passionate about financial well-being of all Canadians. And it starts when you're young. And what young people do with their money really matters. And what you don't do with your money also matters. So as they start, thinking about, even like a summer job, or birthday money, etc. Just understanding the fundamentals of investing and the benefits, and trying to demystify all that scariness of I don't know where to first start. So it actually leads us to Money Gains. Money Gains is videos that tackle financial literacy, and we're very passionate about them. We're hoping, well, they're already launched, but we're going to get lesson plans as well. So it helps teachers build out an entire lesson plan
for educators.
Exactly. So, I mean, we're pretty passionate about it, and I think this is where we need to be.
Just
really.
The beginning,
absolutely.
Of that journey. And you've actually gone to a few on-campus events, right?
Yeah.
Ravina, how was it sort of interacting with the younger students and telling them about all the programs we have here?
It was so exciting, and just to double back onto Monica's point too, the one thing about financial literacy is often students that have the resources for financial literacy are often getting them from family members or for parents, but for students that don't necessarily have the same resources within their midst, this kind of levels the playing field. It gives them the opportunity to have that kind of access to financial literacy, which is so fundamentally important, especially for kind of creating, a better future for themselves and for their families. So that, for me, and for us, equitable education, equitable financial literacy is kind of the point of it all. But yeah, in regards to the events, they were so great. The students were so excited about the different opportunities. We actually had one at that TMU hosted with us with some
just
students.
Next door here.
Yeah, so quick, and it was great because they got a day in the life of Fidelity employees and got to learn about different careers. But they also got to see Money Gains, and then we actually went to another case competition with high school heroes at McMaster.
Yeah.
And they actually created. It was so cool. They created whole apps based on Money Gains, and it was just really interesting to see the ways that they are excited to learn about and how they would gamify some of the content that we've created.
That's amazing.
I've
seen the co-op students go through the program too. We have an amazing co-op program, and just the case studies and the products that they come up with, it's just like you've seen it, Monica. It's just really, really, really impressive. So if we can tie into that, co-op students and the younger generation have a chance to visit Fidelity and see what we do here. If you can explain to our audience just about Fidelity's community and work culture, why it appeals to you, and what do you find, how it's different than other companies, would you say, Monica?
Yeah, I think it's I think it's fast-paced, which I personally enjoy. I think it's a fast-paced. It's always changing. You're not ever working on the same project once, or if you are, you're looking at different lenses. So that always excites me. But also, I think I just feel like because learning is part of so much of our culture, what we do matters. So, money gains, getting involved in that and seeing how now it's on the Fidelity.ca website. Now we're working with teachers to get that into their lesson plans, like making that connection. So it just feels like, the work that you do in these 8 hours or whatever, wherever you are, at home or in the office, at the end it matters. And I really like that. That's what fuels me personally.
Yeah. How about you, Ravina?
So I actually was a co-op student, but not at Fidelity.
I feel like a lot of people have gone through the co-op program, right?
Yeah,
it really does help you, right?
Honestly, yeah, I did the co-op program at Waterloo, so I had the opportunity to experience like different companies, and so it was great. And like the one thing about Fidelity, I find, like looking from the outside, looking in as a full time, is that I think it's really interesting how much programming they do with the co-op students. So they really make a dedicated effort so that the co-ops all know each other. They have lunches together. They have like full training sessions when they join Fidelity together to learn like different business skills. Like it is really like the effort that's put in to kind of like build up their experience and like make them have fun and like enjoy their experience to the point that so many of the co-ops return. I think that's what sets Fidelity apart from like other companies, is that it's really is like, I mean, just from the retention rates of how often they're coming back, like they obviously must enjoy it. So
coming back and getting hired too.
Getting hired afterwards.
That's so cool how your jobs sort of touch so many facets and departments in the company. That's really, really neat. But going back specifically to learning and development, for somebody who wants to start out in the field, like what would your recommendation, advice be if they don't have much experience, like where to start, would you say?
Honestly, I think wanting to be in a learning culture. So looking at learning itself and being passionate about it, being bold. We have great social media events. Follow us on social media. I think that's also great, so you can engage with us. And don't be afraid of maybe having messaging one of us and just or on the LinkedIn of any of our employees and be like, hey, I want to informational interviews. Just understanding what's your role here. I think that's a great way to just start the conversation. Networking is actually one of the things that we focus on because it is scary.
It's a skill too.
It is.
And you gotta have to practice that, right?
Yeah,
exactly. And so I think when you want to start, yes, there are schooling that you can do if you want to be in learning development, but I think fundamentally you just need to want to be in learning culture. You want to be bold and about it too, and want to always constantly be learning. Yeah,
I like that. What would you say, Ravina?
Yeah, I think if you're like completely new to it, I think a really great resource would also be like, silly to say, but like YouTube videos and like watching like previous conferences on learning and development and like ATD, like any of those kind of things that are like free and available to you, as well as like reaching out to learning and development professionals on LinkedIn to ask them about like their job and how they find it and like different tasks that they're learning about. Because I think when you're really new, you kind of have the luxury to learn. Like you aren't kind of pushed into a box or feel like you need to rush your decisions. You can kind of take that time and really explore like different elements of it, which is nice.
Great advice. So lastly, just wanted to know, if you can explain to our audience the best part of your job in L&D and maybe something challenging. What would you say, Ravina?
I think the best part of our job is definitely working with people. I'm definitely like a people person.
For sure you are.
So I like the ability to like work with people and understand what their needs are and move forward and create training programs like together as a partnership. I think that's been really great. Something that's maybe challenging is maybe like deadlines. So if someone's like, oh, I need a training program by next Tuesday, and you're like, oh, guess what? And you're like,
time crunch.
Yeah, you're like you and everybody else.
Right.
So that sometimes can be probably the most challenging, but it's also what's exciting about it is it's never like going to be slow, and you're never going to be like, oh, I'm bored.
Always something to do. Would you agree?
I think it's resonates a lot. Like, I like it because there's a lot of change and it's very fast paced and you're working on multiple projects across the business. And then it kind of gets, you end up a place where you actually didn't think you were going to be. Like money gains is such a clear example of, it came up as like what are we doing for young investors? Like, are we talking, like, what's our presence there? Like, how do we get them to where they want to be? So asking just ourselves those questions came money gains, and I think that's really, really exciting. I think the challenging part is because it's fast-paced, you sometimes have to really juggle multiple projects, multiple deadlines, and you care about the work that we do, so you want to make sure everything is good, but sometimes it is challenging at the time, and you have to do a lot of time management and prioritization.
For sure, makes sense. Well, I feel like we can talk another 30 minutes on this topic, but I would recommend that we talk about networking. Anybody here watching would like to get in touch with Ravina and Monica, reach out to them on LinkedIn. So, ladies, thank you so much for joining me in studio and being here and offering your insights and advice to the audience. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely,
Thanks
anytime.
so much. Yeah.
And thank you to everyone who tuned in. We hope you gained some valuable insights into a career in the L&D industry. Now, if you want to rewatch any of our Fidelity Next shows, you can access all of our webcasts on this link or find it under Fidelity Canada's LinkedIn page under events. And to those interested in career opportunities at Fidelity, please visit fidelity.ca for a list of current open jobs. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Fidelity Next.
Hello.